Hello and welcome to the Film Pulse Podcast. This is episode number 439. My name's Adam Patterson. With me today, we've got Kevin Rakestraw. Hey, Kevin.
Hey, what's up?
Not a whole lot. Keep him busy.
Yes.
This week on the show, we're going to be diving into a South by Southwest movie called Bitch Ass, which is premiering at the festival this week. We're also going to be going over some of what we're watching on the watch list and this week's new releases in theaters, VOD, and Blu-ray. Thank you so much for joining us this week. Please remember to review us on iTunes. That would be very helpful. No housekeeping to speak of, really. We have our theme for this month's Saved by the 90s. We're going to be recording that this coming week, so stay tuned. I'll keep everybody posted on the status of that. I'm always happy. Every time there's a theme, like I'm always overjoyed with what we decide on. And I think this month's going to be a fun one as usual. So South by Southwest is happening right now. We are covering it on the site. So stay tuned for some written reviews on that, and I'll probably be talking about more of what I've been seeing at the festival this year. We're covering it remotely, so we're not there physically, but Chris and I are looking at what they have this year. So the one that we're going to be talking about first is called Bitch Ass. This is directed by Bill Posley. I have a synopsis here. A gang initiation goes wrong when a group of 4 recruits break into a house of horror as they're all forced to play deadly games for their lives. Win and you live, lose and you die. So this one seemed very intriguing to me. This is supposedly the first black masked serial killer movie. And I was like, oh, that's great. I mean, there's definitely slasher, like Candyman comes to mind immediately. Like that's a slasher movie featuring a black villain. And then of course this is a movie that also draws heavy inspiration from other films like People Under the Stairs, Tales from the Hood. And according to the press notes, Meteor Man too, which I think is really funny that he mentions Meteor Man in that. But remember Meteor Man?
I do. I'm going to have to rewatch that.
I have a Meteor Man poster. Not a lot of people can say that.
I wonder how many people can say that.
Probably like 4. But I do have a Meteor Man poster.
Is it hanging?
No, it's not. It's not hanging. Definitely not hanging. So, it seemed like a pretty intriguing movie. I usually like what South by Southwest has to offer in general. I think that their curation and their programming is usually pretty much on point. But with Bitch Ass here, I don't know, man. I just feel like they really missed the mark with this one. I feel like the programmers at South by Southwest missed the mark in bringing this one into the festival. I feel like the filmmakers missed the mark with maybe they bit off more than they could chew with this. But I did not enjoy myself whatsoever with this movie from beginning to end. I thought it was absolutely just a bad experience. And I really feel bad criticizing this so harshly, but it is what it is. And I feel like I just need to be honest about it.
Yeah. No, it's like you said, I think when we talked about this and we ended up picking this movie to cover, it was the synopsis was so intriguing. Such a great idea. It seemed like you could have tons of fun with this. Just that setup, that premise of people going into someone's house and then this killer essentially making them play board games for their lives. But the biggest thing about this is the biggest criticism that I have is like the extremely weak parts of this movie are those. It's those moments where they play the games for the deaths. It's just like they're bad.
Yeah, I mean everything regarding that is bad. This the very cheap looking production design. Everything looks you know what it looks like to me? It reminds me of like a middle school who decided to put on a haunted house for charity or something.
Yeah, yeah.
Like
Like
that's what
every
it
and I think that was a part of me that I was like in the early stages of this because of the just the overall bad filmmaking, just a lot of decisions that like like you said the aspect ratio and stuff like it just looks really bad. There's bad acting. Like the production design is just bad. Like all these things are bad, right? But there was a part of me that was like, well, I this is low budget, so hopefully when we get to the centerpieces of this of the plot line here of these playing these board games to the death, eh, maybe those will essentially make up for it. You know, if you at least give me those moments, I can kind of be a little forgiving of everything in between. Because a lot of times that's what happens in movies. You're just like, those are the aspects that you really put all of your all into, and then everything else outside of it is just to get to the next one. And you can be a little forgiving if it's not that great in order to get you to the next game, so to speak. But you finally get to the first game, and you're like, wow, no, the games are actually worse
yeah, they're
than
pretty
all the in
bad.
between stuff.
The games are stupid and make very little sense. And they all look really bad too, like the way that they're designed. It's just not not good, man. I'm sorry to say, but it is just not good. I want to talk about that aspect ratio again. I want to come back to that because I had such a hard time understanding
Yeah,
why that aspect ratio. This is like I don't know what the aspect ratio is. I'm not super good at like detecting, what aspect ratios are unless it's 4 by 3, 16 by 9, standard stuff. But
yeah.
this was this super wide aspect ratio. So e- basically the whole movie was told in this little sliver in going across the screen, and you just didn't know, like there was just so little space that they were working with that I felt like everything was just so cramped and it was annoying. Like it was very frustrating. But then, like at first, I was like, oh well, maybe it's this the screener that we're viewing. At first, I was like, well, maybe it's this TV I'm watching it on. So I pulled it up on my computer, and I was like, no, it's this way too. But then I remembered that early, like the opening sequence, which this has like bookends to it that are tacked on for no reason. Like there's just really no reason for an intro and an outro other than to bring in Tony Todd in a
Hmm.
cameo and pay homage to Tales from the Hood. Um, those are like in a 4 by 3 aspect ratio, so I know it was a conscious decision to make it that super wide. And then there's these like in completely incomprehensible split screen moments that come in that change things up, and the split screen adds nothing to the style, the story, and it honestly it felt like this was a film school movie where the filmmakers were just trying stuff out, like, oh,
Right, it's trying a
let's put
little bit
some
of everything.
yeah, let's just put some split screen in here and just let's see how this goes. But it doesn't really aid in the storytelling aspect of it at all. So
No, it makes it much worse
yeah. So
because
unfortunately, it's just
even on top of that, you have like strobing split screens and just you have that opening sequence where it's like Rubik's cubes that are twisting and turn. It's so much. It's just too much.
the the killer. The whole like story behind this is that it's a kid who grew up in a very with a grandmother who was abusive, and he got bullied, and then he grew into this masked killer. But the weird thing about this is that, I mean, it seemed like it was trying to like be a Candyman type of thing, but it's strange because it's two different actors. So there's flashbacks that go back to 1980, which, by the way, no one is going to be convinced that that is 1980 when you see modern cars just driving around in the background of every scene, and the like the clothes that they're wearing. Like 1980 was basically the 70s still. And the clothes that they're wearing in those flashbacks are not even 80s clothes. They're like modern clothes. Like it just did I don't know why they made it be taking place in 1980 and then 1999 or whatever. It didn't make any sense. There was no reason for that. I mean, it was like making it more difficult, to sell this. But you have two different actors playing bitch ass, and the one actor has a really thick accent. And so you're like, okay, how did he suddenly like get this accent when he got older?
Yeah.
Which doesn't make any sense. The mask is stupid and like not it's literally just like a black cardboard mask.
Yeah, it's like a sleep mask.
So like that's not cool. It's just
Yeah, and I think it's just the other thing on top of that is, again, like a lot of times I can be forgiving of like poor performances, but the bitch ass character in the present day when he's killing, like that performance was just so grating. It's just so over the top and trying so hard to be like this badass type, and it's just really annoying and grating.
yeah,
Like
none
the
of
line
that.
deliveries.
Oh god, yeah. And there was like really bad one-liners in there, and none of that worked at all. It was also like they're talking about him being like this serial killer. I don't think he's a serial killer. He kills people that break into his house. I don't think
Yeah.
that makes him a serial killer. So all I've seen evidence of is someone murdering people who break into his home.
Yeah. I mean, he does it in really elaborate ways.
Yeah, but still, that doesn't define him as a serial killer. He
Well,
might be a
I mean, if you
sadistic.
he's got enough bodies, I think, to
Isn't like
put
a
someone on that
serial
list.
killer? Isn't like a serial killer someone who
I
murders
think
like
it's
over time?
I think it's just a matter of, you know, I don't actually know the definition. I think it's just
I think it's
more
over a
than
span
one.
of time. I think that the time plays a role. Let's see,
Oh, now we
serial
gotta get.
killer definition. Let's see here.
I mean,
It's a
he does.
person a person who commits a series of murders, often with no apparent motive and typically following a characteristic, predictable behavior pattern.
Yeah, he's kind of got that. Man, I mean, he kind of has a motive. He doesn't want you in his house. He does have a characteristic, predictable behavior pattern. No, he's going to kill you in complicated, albeit small scale,
Yeah, I don't even know if
poorly
complicated is.
constructed. Poorly constructed.
I
I'm just
also
thinking of like the one where he does like the Jenga, and I'm just like, man, he's set up all these pulleys. Like, how's he have all this stuff?
the thing I didn't
And he's just
understand.
waiting for like one day.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what, you just leave it set up and hope that someone breaks into your house to do this, to like force them into this? The thing about the Jenga one I thought was kind of weird was that you would think that you would play Jenga and it would help you, but like every time you pull one of the blocks out, it makes the noose tighter. So it's like, why would you pull any of them out? Why wouldn't you just say, I'm not going to play this game? Because he's tied up too, remember? So, or when you pull the blocks out, it pulls the other person's pulley.
Yeah.
That
Well,
makes
also,
that makes so much more sense than pulling the blocks out to make your own noose tighter.
I would have liked, like, if I was playing, I just would have reached across and knocked all of his blocks off.
Yeah. And the Connect 4 one was really dumb too. The
I mean, the worst one is that you culminate with, well, I should say it was the penultimate one. So you would think that, of course, you're building up to, like the last two, or the last one is just going to be something incredible, right? But like the penultimate one is like a battleship knockoff
yeah,
that just looked really terrible, and it also seemed like there was only three planes on the thing.
and also it seemed like they only took up one space. You know how in Battleship the ships are
Yeah,
like different sizes. Well, these look
but
like they
he had
took up
to,
one spot.
but he had to guess 4 times. He had to give 4 hits to kill the guy, and it was like there's only 3 planes though. And the Tony Todd thing is, I'm pretty sure you could tell that Tony Todd was reading a script.
Oh yeah, yeah. This was just some extra cash for him.
He's reading a script.
The makeup effects were rough to say the least. None of the gore effects worked at all. Like they looked very bad. There was very clear like prosthetic and makeup stuff done. Like the operation scene, like that whole thing, like looks so bad.
Well, and I think that's when, because that's the first game, right? And you finally get to that point, and it takes a while to get to the first game, but you finally get there, and I'm thinking, okay, here we go. We're gonna see what this creativity is gonna take us, right? And then you see what the game is that it's and it just his line delivery of like you can't touch the sides, which
He
I
didn't.
I don't know how
He
he rigged it up to do
yeah.
because there's no sides.
And the guy clearly like it was nothing but intestines in this body. Like it was just pure
Yeah,
intestines. And the guy grabbed the intestines and it still shocked him. So I don't know like how that define like how he touched a side.
yeah, it made absolutely no sense whatsoever. I couldn't, and that's the first one. So you're like, wow,
It's downhill
this
from
is
here.
this is yeah, this is gonna be rough because I was holding out that I was like, okay, everything else is bad, but at least maybe they just put all their eggs in the game basket, so to speak. So you finally get to that first game, and you're thinking, okay, you're going to give me one aspect of this. I mean, this is your centerpiece, right? So this has got to be, and then that just, wow, that was just extremely disappointing. So you're like, okay, I think moving forward from here, there's not going to be a single aspect of this that I'm going to enjoy,
Yeah.
and I still have quite some time to go.
It was a slog. I love the final game. And this isn't. I'm not going to spoil anything like results or anything like that. But the final game, the one of the characters gets to pick what game they want, and it was very obvious what game he was going to pick. But I was thinking to myself, what if he said like Settlers of Catan or something? I think that'd be so funny if he did something like that, or Ticket to Ride, like one of these, you know, boring
Yeah, it would be
games.
great to have a boring game that takes a long time.
Yeah, Stratego.
Stratego would be good.
But like he would have had to like known of a way to turn that game, whatever he picked, into like a deadly game.
Yeah.
So we're to believe. What if he played like I don't know. I'm trying to yeah, like any of those games that like Stratego, Risk, Settlers of Catan, any of those like really long involved games, or some like obscure, not
Yeah,
obscure, but like
how do you turn that into a murder?
yeah, pick some like really involved long artisan game. Anyway, also there's during the game he picks. So they play rock paper scissors, and when if you pick rock and you lose, you get hit with a rock or whatever. And there's one time where he picks scissors and he loses, and the guy burns him with a lighter. And it's like, wait a minute, he picked scissors. So we saw before what happens if you pick paper and if you pick rock and you lose. But why would we go to a lighter with scissors?
Yeah.
There's a missed opportunity there. There's a moment where so like the main character, we don't know who his dad is. And I thought for sure that they were going to reveal like something about who his real dad was, and they didn't go there with it, and I was really surprised. I thought for sure that
It's
bitch ass
actually
was going to be his dad.
I was actually really like I was surprised too because I felt it. I saw it coming and I was like, man, they're gonna do it. They're
I
gonna do it.
Yeah, I
And
thought for
I
sure.
was really happy that they didn't because I think it would have made it much worse.
Mm-hmm. It would have made the whole thing make even less sense than it already does. There's also a scene where a woman is hooked up to an IV and she gets the IV pulled out of her and instantly dies. Which I was like, wait a minute, what?
Wow. Another thing that I would point out because we talked about this off air, but there's this there's a lot of decisions that are made in this movie, visually speaking. A lot of visual like flourishes and stuff that are thrown in for really no reason. Just really confusing. But one of the main ones is essentially labeling every room
Ugh.
an
And
aspect of the house that you don't really need to for some reason.
the games too. They did the same thing with the games.
And I just don't, they were like, oh, bring her down the hallway. And then it's an overhead shot of a hallway with the words hallway
I thought at first
emblazoned on the floor. And I'm just like, I know what a hallway is.
when they did it the first time they did it, I was like, oh man, here we go. Like I was like, okay, the each room is labeled because it's like a board game. Like so the whole house is a board game. But I thought that it was like actual like there within the movie, not just added for the viewer for our benefit. And then after like the second one, I realized like, oh no, like those are just like titles added in post, presumably for art for us. Like,
Yeah. And that's
and
what I mean. I don't understand. You're giving me an overhead shot of a narrow walkway with inside of a home. I know that's a hallway. I know what a hallway is. You know what I mean? Like, there's only one definition of a hallway.
well, and the other thing
And that,
is, it would make it wouldn't make total sense, and I think it would still be a bad idea to do it. But it would make more sense if each room had like its own theme, and there was like a trap or a game in each room, because then each room would be more defined. Because as it is here, it's just like rooms. Like most of the
yeah.
rooms are just regular old rooms, and they don't have anything special about them at all. Other
No,
than
and
like,
it's just, they'll be like, sunroom. And I'm like, do I need to know that it's a sunroom? Like, nothing particularly special happens in the sunroom. It's not sun themed. There's not, there's no reason for me to know that that is the sunroom.
yeah. Also, just as a technical note, the labels are added in a very kind of sloppy way, and they like as the camera pans, like a lot of them just kind of move around, so they're not like anchored to the scene in any way, and it just looks very rough. Maybe
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
know, maybe this isn't like a final cut. I think it is. I didn't see anything about this being a like a work print or anything, but yeah, I feel bad. I think that this was an ambitious movie that they just didn't have the budget for, but I don't feel like that completely excuses it, just because I think that the script was lacking very heavily as well.
Yeah. No, I think you can definitely make this on a low budget.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you can make this work.
Yeah,
but
it's not
there's
like a
just a
big
lot of
scale movie.
decisions here. There's a lot of decisions being made here that are just not to the film's benefit in any way. I
Yeah.
mean, most of the decisions are detrimental.
And again, I feel bad like ragging on it and criticizing it so harshly, but it's just
This it,
I just feel like I have to.
but like you said, it really does not feel like a finished product.
No, it
It's
doesn't.
really confusing for
And
you to
again,
say that it's South by Southwest.
yeah, exactly. Like again, I'll just reiterate, I don't understand how this got into South by Southwest. I mean, this is like one of the big film festivals. It's not like, one of these like dances with films, for instance. This seems like one that would be in dances with films where it's like really micro budget type stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
That's like first
Because
time
even
filmmakers, student filmmakers.
even if you told me that this was playing Slam Dance, I would be surprised.
Yeah, I would be
I'd be like,
surprised.
wow.
Yeah, this definitely doesn't fit. It doesn't fit like the vibe of those festivals either. Like I don't know how to describe it, but like when you see certain movies, you're just like, oh yeah, this feels like a South by Southwest movie. Like I think that the programmers in these festivals are so in tune with the vibe of the festival itself that they can easily pick these titles that just fit well within the overall aesthetic of the festival, and this just does not match up with it at all. Again, no, I think maybe it was chosen maybe on the just the premise alone. It's a cool idea, but it just does
Yeah.
not execute.
No. No.
All right, let's go ahead and give it a score. Kevin, what are you going to give Bitch Ass out of 10?
Uh, like a 1
I'm
or
also
a
giving
half.
this is a half for me.
Yeah. I was thinking, do we go halves? But I'm gonna go.
Um, yeah, it's like rating this on Letterboxd. It'll be a half, so it's like a half or one, either one for me. It's just I can't recommend it at all. This is probably going to be
No.
one of the most disappointing things that I've seen this year. So yeah, unfortunately, again, I feel
Yeah.
bad saying that, but it is what it is.
Unfortunately, like you said, it is what it is. I mean, it's
Can't
it's
sugarcoat it.
bad. It is bad. It is very bad.
Yep. All right. Moving on to one that is not bad that is playing South by Southwest, and this is another horror movie. It's called Deadstream, and this is directed by Joseph Winter and Vanessa Winter. It is a sort of like a found footage style movie. I would call this like more of a horror comedy. And the premise of this one is that you have a live streamer. He's like a Twitch streamer, and he encountered some controversy that got him canceled, and he took some time off to reflect, and he is deciding to come back. He got suspended, I think, from the platform that he was on, and he comes back 6 months later, and he has this plan to spend one night in this really haunted house, and he locks himself in. He removes the spark plugs from his car so he can't like wuss out. And the movie is just him encountering the ghosts of this house, and it's shot in a way where like he's live streaming the whole thing. So like we're the viewers watching this live stream, and they do a really good job. One of the things that I tend to criticize the most with found footage or screen life movies, any of these movies that try to do that type of thing, is the just the technology aspect of it and whether or not it's believable. And I think that they do a really good job in this. Obviously, they can't use like the Twitch branding or anything like that, but they do a pretty good job of like kind of recreating what the Twitch ecosystem is like. So they have like uh they'll periodically check in with like the chat and stuff, and it feels very accurate to that live streaming thing. So they did a really good job with it technically, and also the way that it works is like he'll go into a room and he has like cameras, like he's holding a camera, he has a camera on his head, and then he has another camera that's pointed towards him, and he'll like mount the camera in a room, so then we'll have a new angle and it's hooked up to motion sensors, so anytime there's motion it'll switch to that camera. And they did a really good job with that. The movie, I would compare it to something like Evil Dead 2. It's very, it seems to draw a lot of inspiration from the Evil Dead movies, where you have these like kind of demons, these like kind of wisecracking demons that are attacking him pretty much nonstop. Well, not, that's not true. Like at one point, um, and there's a lot of like kind of, I would say like kind of slapstick uh, comedy in here, but it's all done very, very well. It doesn't feel like it's ripping off Evil Dead or anything like that. It's definitely its own thing, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. I would definitely recommend it. This was picked up by Shudder already, so it'll be dropping on Shudder, I think, later this year.
Nice.
Yeah, Deadstream is the name.
Keep an eye out for that one. I watched Threads last night, 1984. Threads, Mick Jackson. What
Ugh.
is Mick Jackson directed? Because
Bodyguard.
that's not a name. Yeah, it's not a name that I know. I'm like, I've never heard of this guy. Like, what else has he done? Because Threads is pretty good. And it was surprising to see the rest of his filmography. So this is Nuclear Holocaust, 1984. I think if you watched this in the 80s, it had to be just like an absolutely harrowing experience, because it is watching it in 2022, because this movie is just fucked.
This
This
is a
is
this is a made for TV movie too.
yeah,
This played on TV.
yeah, and it's nuts because I love the way the overall structure of this is just fucking phenomenal, because it starts out with just being a very intimate story of this young couple getting pregnant, really. And a lot of the geopolitical stuff is just kind of happening in the background on radios, on TV, like just kind of getting updated throughout, between the US, Iran, and Russia. And it's just, you can see it like quietly escalating, like through little news snippets and stuff. But most of the focus is on the couple themselves, like telling their parents meeting each other, them buying a house, him working his job, like that kind of thing. And it just worked really, really well, I thought. And then, you're kind of building up to it, where it was like essentially this working class city of Sheffield is like them implementing their emergency plans, where it's, they're kind of getting ready, but you don't know if it's actually going to happen. They're just making sure that they're prepared, really. And then all hell breaks loose, which I wasn't 100% ready for, because it takes a while for it to happen. And it just, like, to me, the buildup of it is just masterful. Because then when it is unleashed, it's a fucking nightmare. It's just like you said, this is made for TV, and the images that you see when it finally does happen, I wasn't quite prepared for it.
Nah, this is a
Because
movie you can't unsee. Like you will always remember this movie.
yeah, because it gets, oh man,
It's about as
it gets
bleak
bad.
as you can
Yeah.
possibly get.
Oh yeah. Because I mean, nuclear holocaust is bleak. You're not. This is a very like straightforward, like almost scientific. Like, hey, this is what would happen. I mean, of course, they take some liberties with some things, but for the most part, it's like, hey, we're not going to sugarcoat it. Nuclear holocaust would be fucking awful.
Yeah, this is this is what your body goes through after being exposed to this. If you survive,
Yeah,
the
and
initial blast.
and I think if I would survive and I look out and you see everything's on fire, I'm dead. I'm killing myself right there. Like,
I think,
there's no point.
yeah, I mean,
Like,
you see that the life that these people are forced to lead afterwards is
that's what I don't.
oh
That's what I don't quite understand. Is like, how do you see that initial? You just look out on that landscape, and be like, I'm gonna stick around. I'm gonna see how we bounce back from this.
yeah. I mean,
No.
one of the scariest things, I don't know if it's the scary anyway, is the fact that they weren't even involved. Like it was not a war that they were involved in, and it was a bomb that was miscalculated or malfunctioned and dropped. So like they weren't even involved in this war that was happening, and yet they're the ones who, were suffering the most from it. The fact that they were just kind of caught in the crossfire of this.
Yeah, this is bleak as hell, and it keeps going, and it keeps progressively getting worse after that
Yeah.
initial build up, and you're just like, oh, please stop,
Just
stop at some point. Like, I get it.
yeah, it's a really tough movie for sure. It's
Yeah,
it
and
it's incredible. It's incredible
yeah, no,
to be clear.
it's one of those things where I will never watch this ever again. Never in a million years. I never
Mm-mm.
want to see this movie again.
Nope.
But I do think that you should see it.
Yeah, I agree. And it's
And it's
it's
on
on
Tubi
it's on Tubi. It's also on Shutter
and Mubi and
and
Arrow.
yeah. So
Or
it's
you could rent it on Amazon if you want. If you want to pay for it. I don't know
I
why, but if you want to.
I think that you should probably not watch it on Tubi unless you have. I don't know if Tubi has like a plan where it's no commercials, but
This is the one weird time where the commercials helped.
yeah, I don't know. I feel like injecting in like Swiffer commercials into
It
threads
it
would not
it,
really.
it it shouldn't work, but it provides you with levity to be like this, nuclear holocaust, endless suffering that just keeps compounding and compounding and getting worse and worse. And then you get a little break because then you get to see about Taco Bell breakfast burritos, and you're like, oh, thank God! Like actually some hope in the world. This is great.
Got it. Okay. All right. Well, that's Threads. That's like one of the most depressing movies you will ever see.
Oh yeah,
Moving
definitely.
on from that, another South by Southwest movie that I saw this week is called Skate Dreams. This is a documentary by Jessica Edwards. Now, if you have been a listener for any amount of time, you'll know that I'm really into skating, and this is a skateboard documentary about women's skateboarding. It's an okay documentary. It mostly takes a look at modern women's skateboarding, like where the sport is at now, and it follows around some of the more popular women skateboarders who are competing today, including the USA women's team that went to the Olympics. I feel like and they sort of talked about like how the fact that like skateboarding was always a predominantly male driven sport, and that it was always really difficult for women to break into skateboarding, and it was always sort of an uphill battle for women skateboarders as far as like earning a living doing it and stuff like that. And I think that that's great. And I also like the fact that they discuss the fact that right now women's skateboarding is just blowing up and it's becoming huge, and that's great too. But I feel like there's a lot of there's some things that they kind of missed in this, like the fact that like Alyssa Steamer, for instance, who was in like the Tony Hawk games, and the fact that she I feel like she influenced a lot of young women to get in and girls to get into skateboarding, and they didn't really talk about like the skate kitchen crew or anything like that. So I feel like that they did kind of miss some things, and I feel like the documentary at times was a little bit aimless in its messaging, but overall, I think it's still a positive documentary, and I found myself entertained. And there's some great skateboarding in it too. So,
Uh, Something that I was extremely entertained by. That's The French Dispatch.
ooh,
Finally got around to the Wes Anderson because this popped up on HBO Max, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do it. So this is a thing that I've noticed now too, because I've talked about this. I wasn't that excited for The French Dispatch. I'm not excited for, and I'm still not for Licorice Pizza, and I wasn't that excited for Tenet. You know, movies by filmmakers that if this happened, 15 years ago or so, I would have been just fucking losing it. You know, like, oh my God, can't wait to see French Dispatch. Gotta go opening night. We'll drive an hour to Baltimore to see it. You know what I
mm-hmm.
mean? And lately, I've just been like, I don't really have an interest in it. But now, two for two, I thoroughly enjoyed Tenet. That really surprised me. And The French Dispatch really surprised me in that I fucking loved this. This felt like a culmination of all the great aspects of Wes Anderson that I like
Mm-hmm.
coming together on like a large scale, where he's like fine tuned uh all of his style, everything that I like him for. Because I think the one of the issues that I have with him, which there is a little bit here, is that like the last couple of movies, he seemed to get really caught up in the what I consider like inventory taking, where he's just making lists and he just shows you stills of things that are
Mm-hmm.
like, very organized, and you're just like, yeah, all right, I get it. Picture book. Like, is there a story though? Are we doing anything? Or are we just listing things? And it seemed like that's what he was doing. Where here he does that a little bit. I mean, he's always going to do that, but I think it's kind of tucked in underneath all of this great stuff because he's got a lot going on here between using color and black and white and in the present day and in the past and using these side by sides and these elaborate sets and stage production. You even got animation in here. You got some stop motion. Like, you have everything. He's got a little bit of everything sprinkled in there. And it worked perfectly for me. And what was even more surprising is from the outset, I was a little leery because it's the whole, like three separate little stories that make up this with kind of like bookends type deal. And I'm just like, I really don't like that setup. It just usually does not work for me. But it did here. Like, I had so much fun with this.
Yeah, I really loved this one as well. Just the fact that the sets in this are so elaborate. Like for one scene, there'll be like a set that they built that's like this huge, like ornate,
Yeah.
complicated set, and it's literally shown for like 30 seconds. And you're just like,
Yeah.
whoa.
And they just like wheel it away.
Yeah, it's just so, it's wild, man.
And it's also kind of fun too that because you see him doing like in the very beginning is like him doing like a Tati knockoff of the guy like walking through the building when you see it from the exterior,
Mm-hmm.
and him doing the traveling the journey, and then you have like French New Wave knockoff. Like, you have all of these things that you can kind of pinpoint and be like, oh, okay, that's what he's riffing on here,
Yeah,
but done in his style.
yeah, that have clearly been like inspirations for him from the very beginning.
Yeah,
So
but he makes it
it's
hit distinctly his.
yeah, it's great. I highly recommend it. And like you said, it's on HBO Max, so you can check it out there if you have it. And it's on VOD too.
So good.
Yeah, I kind of want to rewatch this now. The final South by Southwest movie that I saw this week is called Pirates. This is directed by Reggie Yates. It is a comedy that takes place on New Year's Eve in 1999 in the UK, and it's about three best friends who they run a pirate radio station, and they're trying to get into this like kind of popular exclusive club for New Year's Eve, the big Y2K party, and they're trying to get in, and it's just kind of your standard super bad style comedy where a million things go wrong and their friendship is tested, and it's okay. Nothing really incredible about this. I would like kind of just say it's like right down the middle for me. Like there were some moments of humor, a lot of it didn't land. Uh I liked the characters. I liked the three central characters. I thought that they had a good energy and a good rapport with each other. I did like that this took place in 1999. I kind of like 90s club music, so I was into that, especially like UK, like 90s UK club music. So yeah, I don't know. Blight recommend for me. It's called Pirates. All right, let's talk about what we have in theaters this week. Got a couple things. One is X. That's the new Ty West one. I think I'm actually going to go see this in the theater.
Did not realize that this was coming out now.
And neither did I. Neither did I. It's playing at South by Southwest. It's premiering there, but I guess it's a really quick turnaround, and it's playing small local theaters too. It's getting a wide release.
Wow.
Yeah. That's really the only one. There's a Jujutsu Kaisen movie that's coming out, Jujutsu Kaisen 0, which is an anime. Is that an anime or is it yeah, it's an anime. I wasn't sure if it was like a live action version of it or something. I started watching that series and I really liked it, but I didn't keep up with it. I should get back to it. That's pretty much it for theaters. On VOD this week, we have on the 15th, Lost Angel. That is a what is that? Thriller? Maybe. When Lisa returns home to the small island of Newport after the mysterious death of her sister, she's drawn into a dangerous and unsettling quest to uncover the truth. We also have The Race to Save the World, which is a documentary. On the 18th, we have Deep Water. That's going to be on Hulu. That is with Ben Affleck and Ana de Armas. Yeah, not too into that. We got Toll Booth coming out, which is an action movie. Got Panama. It's a Mel Gibson action thriller. Saban Films there. We got Expired, starring Ryan Kwanten. Haven't seen him in a while.
I have no idea who that is.
It's the dude from True Blood, the brother.
No, I've never watched True Blood.
Oh, really? I thought you did.
I forgot that was a show.
It really wasn't that great. People, whatever. Yeah, it's a futuristic action thriller from the looks of it. Let's see what else we have here. The Hater. It's a comedy. We have Measure of Revenge with Bella Thorne and Melissa Leo. Probably skip that. Tethered coming out. This is a kind of an interesting concept. It's about a guy who lives in the woods in North Carolina, but he's blind. So he has like strings set up all over the place, and that's how he gets around. Lives in the woods.
This does sound kind of interesting. There's a mysterious creature lurking in the woods.
Yeah.
I like wood creatures.
The only thing that gives me a little bit of hesitation with it is that Gravitas Ventures is the company putting it out, and honestly, their output over the last couple of years has been very not great. So that's the only thing that makes me a little bit nervous about that one.
I can easily see this as one of those attempts at elevated horror where nothing happens.
Could be, yeah.
For like 80 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Also on the 18th, we have Master. This is the one. This is going to be on Amazon Prime. This is the one with Regina Hall. That's like a thriller, horror thriller, maybe.
Shit!
Looks pretty good.
Oh, it's the Diallo movie.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man.
Yeah, this is
Nice.
also going to be at South by Southwest this week before it drops on Prime.
Oh, that's awesome. I
Yeah,
like that.
that might be our movie next week. That's pretty much it for VOD. On Blu-ray, let's see what we got here for March 15th. An American Werewolf in London from 1981, getting a limited edition 4K release on Arrow. We got Red Rocket coming out. If you haven't seen that yet, I would recommend it. West Side Stories coming out in 4K. That's the new one. Dream a Little Dream from 1989 coming out on the Vestron Collector series. That's the Corey's one. I've never seen that. Might have to check that out. Nightmare from 1984 coming out. Sorry, 1964 Collector's Edition. Contraband from 1980. Murder in a Blue World from 1973. The Boy Behind the Door from 2020. That is on Shudder, so if you have Shudder, you can watch that on there. See, we got Farewell from 1930. Rifkin's Festival from 2020. Zoot Suit from 1981. Zoot Suit.
Such a such a fun couple of words to say.
I really like the cover of this one. Based on a 1940s Los Angeles murder trial, the film follows the case of members of a Mexican-American gang led by Henry Reyna as they're tried and sentenced to San Quentin for a murder they may have not committed. Kino is putting that out. Let's see. Signal the movie. I'm not sure what the alternative to that is. Signal the movie. Oh, it's
Book.
a Japanese drama series.
Ah.
And then okay. Never heard of it. Death Race 2050?
Question mark?
I didn't know that this existed, but I guess they made a in 2016 they made a new Death Race movie.
With Malcolm McDowell.
Maybe I did know that. Maybe I did see that.
Yeah,
Actually.
you did. You gave it 2.5 stars.
There we go. I remember it now, actually. It's starting to come back to me.
This you say you love the original, hate the remakes. This is somewhere in between.
All right. Flipper from 1996, starring Elijah Wood and Paul Hogan.
Oh man, classic.
Brazil from 1985. Yeah, that's pretty much it. What about Criterion's?
We have a re-release of Jean-Pierre Melville's Le Cercle Rouge from 1970. The French classic.
Nice. Great. Been eagerly anticipating that one.
I know you have, and it's finally here.
Whew. All right, I think that's going to do it for this week. Thank you so much for tuning in. You can send us your questions and topics to podcast@filmpulse.net. You can follow us on Twitter @FilmPulseNet and at FilmPulseKevin. And if you have a minute, consider reviewing us on iTunes. That would be very much appreciated. For Kevin Rakestraw, my name's Adam Patterson. We'll see you next week.